If I were turning 20 today and want to be financially successful, here's what I tell myself. Also, I decided to leave a few additional thoughts at the very end for anyone that wants to take this more seriously. But why should you listen or believe me? I'm just a random guy on YouTube. Well, the answer is you probably shouldn't. But here's my track record so far. I co-founded an 8-figure social media business. I've been investing in stocks and ETFs for over 15 years. I've personally invested in and advised a handful of startups ranging from pre-seed all the way up to Series B. And I'm not a financial advisor and I have nothing to sell you. I just hope to provide as much value as possible for your time. If that seems like a fair trade, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can get as much value as possible from the next video. Habit number 1, set financial goals. Get comfortable with setting goals, achieving those goals, or not hitting those goals, and resetting goals and continuing to go after what you want. To me, this is actually one of the funnest things that you can do. You can think way down the road and dream as big as you want, or you can think more realistically of where you want to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and so on. Also, when you're setting goals and trying to dream big, make sure your goals are things that you can control. For example, when I was in my 20s and had a YouTube channel, I had goals around subscribers and watch time and how much money I wanted to make. All of that was out of my control. There were things I could do to improve all of those, but those are really KPIs or key performance indicators. The real goal and what I can control is the videos I make, how often I make them, the quality of the content. So rather than setting a goal of making $5,000 a month from YouTube, it'd be much better to say, make 3 high-value videos per week and upload them to YouTube. Also, while we're thinking long-term and setting goals, I also realize that you are in your 20s. So if you're dating somebody and or ready to start dating someone more seriously, find someone that has similar goals as you. The second habit is to create a budget and pay yourself first. Paying yourself first just means saving and investing. And in your early 20s, you're not going to be making a lot of money, but it's a good habit to just start putting away a small percentage of your money. One of the best ways to do that is to automate your savings so that your money goes into a savings account before you even touch it. As part of that savings account, be sure to have an emergency fund. A good start to an emergency fund is $2,000 liquid that you can access at any time. A great emergency fund is anywhere between 4 to 6 months of your current living expenses. As part of habit number 2 of creating a budget, you have to live within that budget. Currently, I use a tool called YNAB, but at the very minimum, track your expenses on a spreadsheet and know how much money's coming in and how much money's going out and where it's going. The third habit is to continually educate yourself. So if you're watching this video, I'm hoping to provide as much value as possible. And if you are getting value from these videos, then go ahead and subscribe. But either way, be sure to learn as much as possible, especially marketable skills that you like to do that you can charge a lot of money for in the future. One of the best ways to educate yourself are from mentors. Find someone in the industry that you want to be in and see if you can take them to lunch every quarter or every 6 months and let them know what you're doing, what you're learning, and you're going to learn a ton just from spending 1 hour with them. Habit number 4, establish credit responsibly and understand taxes. Now, these are completely different things, but I wanted to keep them together because in my mind, they're kind of in the miscellaneous bucket. You don't need to understand taxes at such an in-depth level, but you need to understand how they impact you, especially when you have a number of side hustles. You'll be able to write off a lot of the things you buy and or do. The other part of that is establish credit responsibly. I personally put everything on a credit card in my 20s, but I never spent more than I knew I had. Interest on credit cards is extremely high and something you want to stay as far away from as possible. So if you don't feel as comfortable with a credit card, maybe just do a handful of smaller charges on a regular basis that you pay off every single month that you feel comfortable with. And this isn't a YNAB sponsorship, but if you do use YNAB, the credit card feature in there makes you think of a credit card like a debit card. So when you do use a credit card, that money comes out of your account immediately. So if you always check your YNAB account, you'll already know how much money you have left and you'll never run into credit card debt. The 5th habit is reviewing and adjusting each of those 4. So review and adjust your goals. Make sure they're goals that you still want to do because maybe the goals you set when you were 20 have changed a bit by the time you're 25. Continually review your budget. Maybe you have a budget for clothing allowance and then you end up with enough clothes that you don't need to keep spending on clothes for a few years. And rather than spending your clothing budget on clothes, you redirect that into the third habit, which is educating yourself. Maybe you up the budget of book allowance or seminars or other things that you want to spend money on to educate yourself to become more skilled. And finally, review and adjust anything you need to around credit cards and building credit, as well as making sure you're taking full advantage of the tax system. Obviously, taking full advantage of the tax system legally. So for anyone else that wants to take this more seriously, first, avoid lifestyle inflation. In your 20s, you'll start with earning very little amounts of money and you'll start to earn a lot more. With that, you'll be tempted to spend more and more and more on a certain type of lifestyle so that either you look cool to your friends or maybe you just like it and you're comfortable doing it. Now, I'm not one to preach there should be no lifestyle inflation, but what I would tell myself if I were 20 is choose specific things that are extremely important to you and inflate your life in those areas and keep everything else where it is. In my personal life, I chose to do that with health and fitness. There was a gym that I really wanted to go to that was extremely expensive, and once I felt like I could afford it, I started going. Now, I didn't hit that goal until my late 20s, but it was a huge inflation overall in my budget. But it also leads me to the next point. I think you should prioritize health. Nothing is more obscure and more frustrating than medical bills. It's impossible to know how much something costs in the medical world, and they always jack up the rates. So personally, I would never sacrifice my health for money. And finally, keep your head down. 30s are the new 20s. So as you start putting in work in your 20s, you're gonna be tempted to look up when you're 23, 24, look around and see where everyone else is at in all different factors of life, but especially financially. If you keep doing this at 23, 24, 25, 26, you're gonna drive yourself crazy and you won't get as far ahead as you would have had you just kept your head down, stay focused on your craft, stayed in your lane, and didn't look up until you were hitting your 30s. So those are the 5 financial habits that I would tell myself if I were in my 20s. But as always, this is just the start of the conversation. What do you feel like are the most important financial habits to learn in your 20s? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.